Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am once again delighted to be joined by James Kearney. How's it going, James?
Yeah, not bad, but again, I'm sat here looking out my window at the grey skies, wondering, when I'm going to get to enjoy a wee bit more sun. And then there's you sat there with you had your shades on a minute ago, your cap. I can see the reflection from the window behind you. It's very blue skies.
It is very nice. I'll make you more jealous of just everything else that's going on. Yeah. Sorry, just had to do that. But no, I've
how are you getting on?
Yeah, good. I am going out shortly for dinner and to watch the England game. But it's one of those where it's been so warm today, but also it's been quite a busy day because we were up at the Hearts Hotel speaking to Jan Dander, Blair Spill and Stephen Naismith, and it's like getting back, transcribing stuff and writing stuff up. I mean, it's fine, but it's I could do with a nap. That's what I could feel like I could do with. But the smallest violin in the world, I don't think anyone particularly cares. But we are here to do a video because a couple of things we'll kind of talk about. The latest from Tenerife, can talk about a couple of things, but mainly we're here to talk about Gerald Taylor because the Costa Rican right back became the 7th summer signing. He was announced at 4:00 today on a loan deal. Hearts have an option to make that permanent, just like Kenneth Vargas 12 months ago. And first thing I would say is there's a in-depth scouting report that James did that's gone on the site at 6 p.m. tonight. I would urge anyone, especially if you're listening to this live, then wait until we're finished and then you can go and read that. It's really, really good. It looks at all his different qualities. And then we may as well just talk about that article and what you found from watching him. I can bring some insight in, having spoken to Naismith about him, I've spoken to Gordon Forrest about him. So, I'll bring in Graham Duffy's comment here. Hi guys, from what I have read, Taylor seems very highly regarded, so we seem to have done very well to sign him. From what I've read, Taylor seems very highly regarded, so we've done well to sign it. And really interested to see how we line up opening game with a number of options now. I'll answer your other question later on, Graham. Yeah, basically, I think with regards to how we line up an opening game, I think that's a podcast for next or a video for next week when we discuss what the starting lineup could look like. Now we've got a really big squad, but in terms of Taylor, I think it's a big signing. I think it's a really impressive signing, and he's someone who has a lot of experience. He's only 23, has a lot of experience played over 100 games for the biggest club in Costa Rica. He's won trophies there. Stephen Naismith described him as a winner, and he's a good profile to come into the team. He's now an international. He's got a lot of athletic qualities. I think he improves the team, and by all seems, it seems like he was a key target that Hearts kind of finally got over the line, because he was linked a fair while ago, but with him being at the Copa America and then just coming in from Central America, Hearts have had to do more kind of like paperwork to get him over the line. So that's finally done, and I think it is a really impressive sign, considering, like Graham said, he is very highly regarded. I think in Costa Rica, the fans of this club are sad to see him go, which is always a good sign, but it does seem like in Costa Rica they're kind of urging or wanting their players to go to Europe and develop, and we've seen it with Kenneth Vargas, and it's you're hoping that it's kind of Taylor follows similar suit. But what I would say about Taylor, I think he's probably further along in his development compared to Vargas. When Vargas joined Hearts, like I said, he's played so much. He's already international. Vargas became an international when he was with Hearts, and so he's got a wee bit more experience, probably a wee bit more about him. And the fact that his English is good and Vargas is already there to help him settle in even further. Like Vargas didn't have someone like Taylor. So all things are pointing really kind of pointing to the positive side of things. In terms of what he's like as a player, James, talk a wee about him. Let's go talk about the defensive side of the game, because having spoken to Naismith, I think he's really positive about the defensive side of the game. He likes to defend, and when I spoke to him a couple of weeks ago, he described Taylor as aggressive, and he did so when speaking at Hearts TV earlier on. And when I spoke to him, I think he said aggressive 4 or 5 times, which straight away I was like, good.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Certainly from the games that I've seen and the clips I've been watching, and when that is the first kind of word that does jump to mind, because you notice it, like little things when a ball will getting played from the opposition from say the defence at the midfield, and his markers drop deep to go collect the ball. Like he will go herring after him to go get it back. Like he puts loads and loads of like pressure on the opposition, and he's a big guy and he's quick, so he can do it. And he's got quite good stamina as well, and that he can be doing this quite late on in games. But it basically means that think of the way that somebody like Cammy Devlin, like the way he presses in midfield, where he's just like constantly nipping at people's heels and getting right in amongst it and throwing his body around. Like Taylor's not a million miles away from that in terms of the way he goes chasing after the ball, and he's got that kind of relentless nature, and like I say, he's got that acceleration, that pace that can, I lost count the amount of times where he'd be watching games and he kind of just chases somebody away. Like the opposition might get the ball to the left winger, say out near the edge of the box, and Taylor just goes chasing after him. Okay, he might not win the ball back all the time, but he'll force the guy back to 40 yards out, 50 yards out with it back to goal, and then he has to turn away again. So I think that, when you look at that, that's obviously a big box ticked. We've spoken about it before. You want your defenders and your wing backs to be aggressive like that. You have to put pressure on the opposition, to have that athleticism to get up and down that flank constantly, because it's a hell of a shift playing out there.
Yeah.
And yet that's what I saw consistently from him. I mean, again, he's quite happy to attack and get forward. Like, again, there's no kind of reluctance or hesitance. I was watching the game against Paraguay the other night, Costa Rica's final game in the Copa America, and he kept trying these 1-2s down the right hand side, and almost every single time, his one was great, brilliant pass, great run, timed it well, and then the two, like the pass back, was just rotten. It was just rubbish, and it was like, why have you done that? It wasn't a tricky ball. So there's maybe a couple of times where, certainly the game I was watching the other night, maybe his teammates let him down, but even at club level, you see he's constantly balling forward when he's playing in that wing back position, which is where it's probably where he's most likely, where he's going to feature most prominently at Hearts. We should say he can play just as a right back on a back four as well. He can play as part of a back three as well as that. I mean, he's played a couple of games at centre half for his at club level as well. So there is a bit of versatility there, but I do think that he's primarily been brought in for basically being what you want in a wing back. Somebody who gets forward, constantly drives with the ball, has that athleticism to get up and down, whilst also remaining really solid defensively. I mean, we talked about last season about Atkinson and Len Bakisa, and then they both had their strengths, they both had their weaknesses, and if you put them both together, you get a great wing back. But we both got their strengths and their flaws. Whereas Taylor, it does seem to be a little bit more of the whole package. Like there's still areas of his game that can improve, and I'm sure we'll get onto that. But certainly in terms of what he's achieved already so far in his career, I mean, it was only, I think, tail end of last year he got his first cap for Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And he's got 7 already now, and I think he started every game with the Copa America for them. So like you say, you can see that he is maybe a little bit further ahead than Vargas was in his development. But there's still certainly potential for a lot more growth from what I've seen.
That's kind of the feeling I get with, and the feeling I get with a lot of the players that coming to Hearts. There's Naismith, who I've spoken to him, and kind of brought, especially someone like Taylor, he's 23, that he will the club will have looked at, right, he can fit in here and there, but these are the areas that we can improve in him, and if we improve him, then he becomes a better player and a potential valuable asset to sell on. Before we get onto those areas that you think could do with improvement, just when you're talking about his 1-2s, I'm already picturing him motoring up, and Shanklin likes to drop into that right hand stretch straight, and he does. And if Shanklin is a striker who likes to do that, interact with players and play 1-2s, and you think, we've watched him all last season, we've watched him for the last couple of seasons, and he's so good at playing 1-2s and his awareness. So that's something, again, fingers crossed Shanklin stays, that's something that I think is going to be really positive, and you think that Taylor could thrive in that scenario. Also, the one of the areas that you pinpointed was him at centre back and his willingness to just drive with the ball and just basically take on take out strikers and just knock it in front of them and just run. That's something that really frustrates me with centre backs, is when they've got so much space and they're so hesitant and they're like, oh, I just want to pass, I want to get rid of the ball, rather than just taking the space and kind of drawing someone out of position from the opposition. So that is something that is that's really encouraging for him. Alternatively, what are the areas where you think, right, if Hearts can improve on him, then he's just going to be a much better player?
So I think that the big thing when you look at him, when you look at first off, when you look at the stats, and then a little bit more when you watch him play, I think the big thing is that he probably needs to deliver a bit more in the final third. He's not one of these guys who he doesn't score many goals. Obviously, he's a wing back. They don't tend to. He doesn't really get many assists either, though, and he doesn't really create too much from open play. So that's obviously something that is an area that will need to get worked on. But I mean, I'd be quite hopeful and quite optimistic that that will be able to be the case at Hearts, just because we know that the way Hearts play it is lopsided. A lot more is asked in an attacking sense from the right wing back than what's been asked from the left wing back, for instance. And as a result of that, I think that sorry, I've lost my train of thought for a second there. But so he does get into these really promising areas, but the cross isn't always there. And obviously there's a whole variety of reasons that could go into that. You can say, okay, maybe his teammates aren't very good. Maybe he's getting too far forward. But that is the one area where you look at it and go, okay, he needs to be delivering a bit more, especially with likes of Shankland to aim for. That should help as well. But he will be seeing a lot more of the ball at Hearts than he was at Deportivo Saprissa. So in attacking areas, so I think he will get that opportunity to refine that side of his game and to improve on that. But that is the one area where you look at it and go, like, he does seem to tick every box. But it's like, when you look at his, I think it was like 3 assists, I think, over the course of last season, which it's not great, but it's not terrible. Sorry, but it's not great either. It's a pretty bang average figure, and you're probably looking for a wee bit more, particularly with the way the Hearts play as well. So yeah, that's probably one area. But like you said, the way he kind of carries the ball out from the back and then take a really strong ball carrier. I mean, there's one game I was watching that's against Philadelphia Union in the Champions Cup, which is like the Central North American version of the Champions League. And yeah, there's a short goal kick that gets played to him, and he beats two. The Philadelphia Union are pressing really high, and he gets the ball, beats 2 players, runs up to the halfway line, and there's a point where just against that little bit where we talk about his decision making and that he do a little bit more. There is a pass on where if he's kind of backs himself, he could maybe slip in the striker, and then who knows what happens. But instead, he takes the safe option. So I think there's little things like that where you might need to be encouraged to take a few more risks. But I do think that fundamentally, he's got that ability to do it. It's just about coaxing him to do it on a more regular and a more consistent basis.
And equally encouraging is you did a bit on his willingness to cut in and have a shot with his left foot. And we've spoken about it, and you did mention it, that Atkinson was so good at getting into really good positions, and then he just didn't seem to have the confidence on his left foot, and then you'd find him kind of getting into the final third, and then this is him attacking goal, and then he just kind of just drifts horizontally across the pitch just because he doesn't want to use his left foot. But a willingness to kind of cut in and can shoot, again, provides another goal threat, especially if you're coming up against deep defences.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, he scored a couple of goals like that for the club level over the last year or two, where he's got the ball out wide, cut back on his left, had a dig, and it's gone in. And obviously that's good, but let's be honest, it's not really, he's not signed to score goals. Obviously, if he can do that every now and again, great, but let's not bank on it. But I guess the thing that I take encouragement from when seeing that, though, is the fact that, okay, see if you can hit one at the top far corner, from 25 yards on your left foot. You can play a simple short pass, or you can take a touch with it in the box, or you can maybe hit a cross with it to pick out something in the back post. These are all things that like Atkinson wasn't doing, either can't or won't do. So again, it's just that confidence to have. We saw it with Len Bukisa as well last season, where there were a few times where he was able to cut in his left hand side. Yeah, and he scored twice from doing that. And he got a couple of assists and good balls in the box. So it's like, having that variety just puts that little bit of doubt in your defender's head, going, all right, it can go either way, you know, and then that just makes dealing with them so much harder. So again, I think that it's not so much the fact that he scored the goals that encourages me. It's more the fact that he's doing technically difficult things with his left foot whilst moving at pace, driving inside, and like that's something that, again, I think it's a big string to his bow.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we move on from Gerald Taylor signing, Graham just asked a couple questions. Was there an option of a permanent deal after loan ends? Hearts didn't mention it in their statement, but or their announcement, but understand that it's a very similar deal to Vargas, where Hearts have an option to make the deal permanent. It's almost like a kind of try before you buy. But I think the idea is Hearts are confident that they will. They will make the deal permanent because they've done. This is a big thing that it's mentioned in the couple of interviews that we've done with done with Gordon Forrest that have gone up on the site over the last 24 hours. Is that they've done a lot of work. What was that? A lot of work looking into it. Gordon Forrest has spoken to a teammate of Gerald Taylor's, Kendall Watson, who he had at Vancouver Whitecaps, to basically get a background check, and that's something that they do for every player to make sure, because that one thing they don't want is to bring a player over from Costa Rica and it not be the right fit, because that's just a waste of everyone's time. So the reason they're bringing him because they feel that he will adapt well and he won't have any issue with the physicality of Scottish football. So it provides the structure of the deal provides a bit of protection, but definitely the idea is that he'll be a permanent Hearts player in 12 months' time. And then Graham asks, assume that he and Oyugoke will alternate depending on who we play against. It depends. Yeah, I think it will very much depend on the game. I think there'll be games where you see both of them play, where Taylor's a right wing back and Oyugoke is the right-sided centre back. So yeah, I think it just depends on the situation, the opposition, the game state. So it's encouraging to have two players who are so versatile and can play. They can play in all those three right-sided defensive roles as well. So and because they're both kind of young and coming into it, to have two of them, so you're not going to be relying on one or the other, which is a huge positive. And I suppose before we finish up, I'll kind of talk about the latest from Tenerife. We obviously went up to the training ground on Monday, then we're back in at the team's very, very nice hotel today, speaking to Naismith, Danda and Spittle. So there's a big in-depth interview with Jan Danda going up tomorrow. He explains his family connection with Hearts and some really interesting stuff in terms of his move to Hearts and his view on Hearts and how it all came about. So that goes out live tomorrow. And Graham asks, how have the new guys that have been in training interacted with the team so far? And I think this is one where I'll kind of pass over to Hearts and Hearts TV. I think they've done a great job with some of the behind the scenes, with a lot of the behind the scenes content, whether it's Denham and Benny's kind of teammates or Blair Spittle. They had a kind of day in the life of Blair Spittle, but everyone is interacting really well. And Naismith, I think he talked about it with Hearts TV, and he explained that everyone's got a roommate. So they're like, for example, Denham and Musa are roommates. Penwright, Danda and Fulton are roommates. But within that, each player has also got another player in the team who they've got like a partnership with, and they need to find out as much as they can. There's been like loads of races, on Lilos and inflatables. They're in the pool, they've been playing water polo. So there is a great camaraderie. You can see it just sitting around the hotel, where everyone's kind of interacting with each other, chatting. I think there is a really good team spirit. Like some of the players, like Musa, is quite quiet. So some of them will take time to come out their shell, while others will, who are probably more experienced and know some of the players, like Spittle and Penrix, they'll know the majority of the squad, having played against them or played with some of them. So they'll fit in a lot easier. But it's, again, I'd probably bore everyone to death with it, but it's been such a big focus of Hearts over the last 12 months, is not only to bring in the right player on the pitch, but to bring in the right player to fit in with the environment, the culture of the club. And a lot of work has gone into that. And like speaking to I've been fortunate that we spoke to 5 of the new signings, and they all just like seem genuinely nice guys. Great to chat. Great to chat to. So outgoing, like Musa, for example, was he was determined to do like the interview in English, and I think at times he was like he was worried his English wasn't good enough. His English was brilliant. There was times where he just had to double check the like one of the words he was using or the phrase, but just there's a real eagerness for everyone to kind of integrate and be part of it. So I think it's been a really positive week. I'll probably do a roundup piece tomorrow or Friday when I'm back in Scotland to kind of look over it. But like we had a quick chat with kind of just informally with Craig Gordon. He was just saying it's been such a great camp. He's really enjoyed it. The fact that the team haven't had a game has made it harder, but I think it's put them in a great shape to come in and like tackle the preseason friendlies, because there's going to be 3 or 4 between now and the start of the season. So yeah, I think it's been really positive. And I've seen a comment on YouTube on one of the Hearts TV videos, and I think kind of just summed it up was basically just loving everything that's coming out of Hearts at the moment. It just seems like such a positive environment and just a positive place at the moment.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like you're saying about Craig Gordon saying it's a good camp. Let's face it, if anyone would know, he would know. He's been to about
he's been so many, yeah.
I mean, God knows how many he's been to over the course of his career. So he's pretty good place to judge. But yeah, no, it does seem as if there is a kind of feel good factor that's kind of carried over, I think, from the end of last season. All these new players have come in, which is always exciting. The prospect of Europe coming up, and as of yet, even touch wood, no, tempting bids for the likes of Shankland or Cochrane or all the rest of it. So yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you be happy? What's there to complain about? Life's pretty good now.
Exactly, and you mentioned Cochrane and Shankland. I don't believe, and on the Jam Tarts 21, has there been any interest in Atkinson or Civic, and how have they been within the camp? As far as I'm aware, there's not been any interest at the moment, but it's one thing that's not really checked in since we had that conversation with Naismith about Atkinson and Civic. But they're not with the team here. They're back in Scotland. They'll join back up with the first team squad just for training when they're back. I don't think they'll be involved in any of the pre-season friendlies. I think they expect to be offloaded at some point. But in terms of outgoings, that's outgoings. But the fact that they've managed to now sign 7 players, but the fact that there's 6 of the new signings in the training camp at Naismith, and Gordon Forrest as well, it's been such a bonus or benefit, because last season, I think we've talked about it before, it took a while for players to come in, and I think it's made a massive difference to the fact that the vast majority of the squad are already there. They're working with, they're getting so much detail put in. So I think it's been a very, very beneficial week. They had a hard day training today, I think double session, and then they're back in tomorrow before they fly home from Tenerife tomorrow evening. As do I.
Yeah, exactly. No, sounds good. Yeah, it's a good time to be there.
So. Absolutely. It's been good to especially chat to the new boys. It's really interesting. A lot of them have got really interesting backgrounds and stories. So there's been plenty of content up on Heart Standard already. We've got plenty more to come. Like I said, there'll be a couple of pieces around Danda. Spoke to Spittle. Had a good chat with Naismith as well. So there'll be plenty coming out of that. So expect kind of stuff on Naismith talking about signings and where the squad is sitting at the moment, talking about young players, asked them about the kind of went down the route of big physical Hearts and the athleticism in the team, so there'll be a piece on that as well. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff to come. There will be a couple of pieces looking ahead to the Leyton Orient game as well, and then another few things lined up for next week. So if you haven't subscribed, do so at on the website, and for those who have already subscribed, thank you very much, and we hope to continue to bring as much content and good content as we can. We'll be back at some point over the next few days. I think we're both going to be at the friendly on Saturday, but until then, thank you very much everyone, and goodbye. Thank you, James, and goodbye.
Bye.